So you've probably had this before where you want to make some type of text on any of your objects. You go to make a variable and you're like, okay, but we've got strings and we've got names and we've got text, and which ones am I supposed to use? Well, I'm going to spoil one thing for you. It's probably not string, which might be your first inclination to use because you might be familiar with it from other programming languages or whatever. But strings are actually 9 times out of 10 not what you want to use. So let's compare them to both names and then also compare them to text. So the names, right? The main issue here comes in with comparing them. If I want to compare a string, what I need to do is I need to check if it is exactly equal to another string. So let's just, like, we can test string and then check if this is exactly equal. Comparing strings is a very expensive operation because unlike comparing something like two numbers, if I just have a like equal and I make like a float or whatever, and I want to compare like 6.8 to 2.6, whatever, something like that. All that this is doing is it's essentially checking, hey, is this value the same as this value, right? Strings are a little bit more complicated because they can have varying lengths and as such they can have various sizes in memory. Because a string, when it comes down to it, is essentially an array of characters. So what you need to do to compare strings is compare each character to the corresponding character in the other string. Now that's a little bit oversimplifying things, but you can kind of see how that starts growing out of proportion very quickly. Doing that once every so often isn't a big deal, but if you're like iterating over an array or over like hundreds of actors that all have an array with strings in it, that adds up and you're gonna like notice that in CPU usage. That's where names come in. If you have a name, that is actually very optimized for things like comparing. So I can just do a normal equal operation because names, even though we can type them out as just normal human readable text in editor for us to use, when the game compares these, it actually uses a hashed value, which means that it essentially just turns your text into a number so that it can do an operation a little bit more like this one. So if we go over to another project of mine that I have here, there's going to be a whole series on setting up this project, I think starting like next week on the channel. This is a turn-based RPG project. And as a part of that, we have this ability system components. And in that we have an array of attributes. The attributes are made up of a name, a display name, and then some floats for the actual stat values. The floats we don't care about right now. The thing is, we have this name, which is a name variable, because when we try to get the value of an attribute, we request it by name. We give it a name of the attribute that we want, and we get back the value. The way that that works, if I just open this up, is essentially we just loop over the array of attributes and we check for each one of those, is the name of this attribute the same as the name that we gave in? And if so, we like add the current and the modifier and we return that. That's not important right now. What's important is the fact that because we're using names, this is relatively performant compared to using strings. The same thing goes for things like gameplay tags. Gameplay tags, even though they might look like fancy strings, are actually just a combination of a couple of name variables stitched together. Meaning that comparing them is a fairly cheap operation to do. Texts, on the other hand, you don't want to compare either, because that's essentially just still comparing a string. But texts are really useful for user-facing things. So that's more or less the distinction that you can make. If you want to have a bit of text, is it going to be internal engine use only? If so, you want to make it a name. If it is going to be user-facing, you're going to want to make it a text, because texts are going to be gathered by Unreal's localization system so that you can localize it into different languages. They can also make use of string tables, which is just a bit more designer-friendly. When you have a bunch of text in your game, you can refer to them by a central asset. So that's the basic difference. I want to show you a little bit about setting up those string tables and that localization. We're not going to go too deep into making this like a whole translation localization tutorial. Might do one in the future. But if you come up here into tools, we can open the localization dashboard. And if you look at that, what you do is you gather from packages in this case, you give in the path in your project what assets it should look at. Then coming all the way down here, you can gather your text up, you need to save assets, and then it's going to gather up all the text that you have in that directory. If we now open up this edit translations for this culture, we can see that it found my text, which is the text that I put in for my text variable. So in here we have text, names. For some reason I call it names, but the actual text that I gave in here is my text. So it found that because it was a text variable. You will notice that the name and the string didn't get found by this system. Now, if I want to add a new language, personally, I am Dutch, so I speak Dutch, obviously. So we're going to be adding that as an example. We can gather text again, which you do need to do every time you add like a new language. We'll see that this thing now has a word count of 0. So if we go into edit translations for this culture, we have this untranslated, where we find my text, which is again the text that we put into that text variable. And then we can just give in the translated text for that. So that would, in this case, be something like this. Then once we have done that, we can save this, go back to our translation board, and then we can compile for this language, at which point it will now be usable by switching the language settings for our game. Effectively, anything that the player is going to be looking at should be able to be translated, meaning that you should be using text for them. So there's no use in using strings there either. Now, the one last thing that I do want to show about this is if I make a string table, what you can do instead is let's make this just like player names or something like that, like character names. And you can give in the like main character. This needs to not have any spaces in it, which will be named David. And then we can give like side character 1, which can be Bob. And then we can say supporting character 1, which can be, I don't know, I'm very bad at names, like Tom. Right? This mostly comes in handy if you're working with a team where the people writing your text are different from the people actually like interacting with your blueprints. If you're doing everything on your own, this isn't as useful to do, admittedly, but I want to show you anyway. So what you can do is in any given text, click on the little flag icon. You can choose a string table to work from. So I can say, hey, character names. Then we can use the main character name, and that's going to be the text that we work with here. Now, if there's any other place in the game that I need to reference this name, I can just use that text again. And if I just decide, hey, actually the characters are going to be named something entirely different, like maybe like Alice, we're changing it into like a main character woman or whatever. Now it's updated everywhere in the game. Again, this mostly becomes really useful once you start growing a little bit of a team around your development. For solo development, maybe it's not that big a deal, but for things that you're referring to in multiple places throughout your project, it can still be really good. And these things also will be taken in when you look at the localization dashboard here. So now that we have that string table made, we can gather text once again, which is going to take a moment here. But now that we have done that, we can see we have some more stuff going here. So now we have Bob and Tom and Alice, which in English will be Bob and Tom and Alice. But maybe then I can go over here, and I do find it a little bit annoying that if you already have one of these tabs open and you gather text, you need to close it and then reopen it to actually get the new untranslated names. We can give them more culturally like relevant names to the culture that we're translating it, maybe. So, in short, strings, they can be really useful. If you want to do something that doesn't need to be translated, which is very rare, but that might be things like keeping track of a certain file path or whatever, that still makes sense to do as a string. Because you don't want to do that as a name, because if it gets hashed, you can't now use it anymore as that specific string file path. But effectively, anything that is running in your code should be a name variable, and anything that is going to be read by the user should be a text so that you can easily translate it later down the line if you decide to localize your game. And a very big thank you to all my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help support the channel or get any of the project files in any of my tutorials, there's a link down below to the Patreon page to support me, or alternatively as a YouTube member. And of course, an extra massive thank you to my Cave Digger tier supporters, Sergey Thomas, Mauricio Farias, and my Cave Student tier supporters, Oiku and Earl Monsville Urno.